us updates. Hello, Dari.
Hello, Bukola.
Indeed, I believe you are in Ikobauha. What updates do you have for us at this time?
Yeah, thank you very much, Bukola. Of course, the day started and some of the things that happened earlier, you already captured in that clip that was played. The day started really slow because at the polling unit where we were, or the center, was a rack. Some of the officials who were trying to move their materials to various polling booths or to polling units had a bit of difficulty because they said they were waiting for the security to accompany them. The last batch or the last set of officials, the core members, to leave that particular rack left around 8:40, and of course polls was expected to have opened at 8:30. So the day went on like that pretty slowly. It picked up eventually. Voting started in some of the polling units, and by and large going smoothly until that particular incident where officials of the EFCC arrested some people suspected to be vote buyers. We captured that then. Of course, it's a rainy afternoon here. This rain started about 2 hours or more than 2 hours ago, and since the rain started, it disrupted at first the process. But as it is right now, in this particular school, where there are about 13 polling units, very busy one. Voters are just trickling in, and I don't think the rain is heavy enough to stop anything. So as the voters are coming in, they are approaching the desk. If you haven't voted, you still get a chance to vote. So pretty much what you can see now, ad hoc officials just waiting for that time, 2:30, when polls will close, and then they will start the sorting and counting. Kola.
The voters are undeterred by the rains in this particular polling unit in Ikobauha. But Dari, we saw you earlier in Ego local government area, and it seemed that the exercise may have been disrupted. Are you hearing anything from INEC officials, perhaps the polling officers, about whether there will be an extension of time such that those who are unable to cast their ballot as a result of the weather will be allowed to do so when the rains subside?
Bukola, what actually happened is at the point when the rain was very heavy, a lot of the officials there, the INEC officials, voters, security operatives, just had to take shelter. They took shelter under a building, and it got to a point they continued with the voting. The traffic at that point had really reduced, and I think they were able to deal with the few voters that were coming in eventually. The rain was really heavy, although maybe in the course of the day before polls close, I'll touch base with that particular local government and the center. One other thing that is worth mentioning is Yaga Africa, they've been able to rack some of this data and coming out with some numbers, because again, when polls opened at 8:30, so many polling units did not start. So Yaga Africa, based on the preliminary report that they've released, they say as at 9:30, polls only opened in 64% of the local government in the state, although they sampled about more than 200 of 300 polling units, and out of that, they say only 64% of that particular figure started the voting. Some of these things are already had been envisaged. Logistics, either maybe security, the rain. Even the rain had actually been envisaged. There are predictions already that the rain may disrupt the process. But how it did in Oluwa Primary School, which I think you're referring to, at that point where we were there, when the rain started, it seemed like it disrupted a bit, but I think it picked up eventually, Bukola.
Interesting there, Dari. And if it is the Yaga Africa's report covers 64% of late commencement, I wonder what you're hearing about the weather in all the other local government areas besides the two that you have visited. Is it a case of bad weather as well, marring the exercise and causing this kinds of delay?
Yeah, we've also touched base with some of our colleagues somewhere else. They say that, well, let me put it out there that Yaga say they sampled some of the polling units, not across the state. So then again, in some of the other reports that we're getting, either the MADOC officials were ready with the materials, the sensitive and the non-sensitive, either they're waiting for security operatives to come, or the buses were not ready yet. At the point in the morning, I moved around just beyond the particular center just to see how things were picking up eventually. But the information I can provide for you right now, and the conversation that I've also been able to establish with my colleagues who are on the field elsewhere, they say at some point the polls did not start early. Then again, we started reporting that some of the locations that we see polls did start, people started voting eventually in the course of the day. So this is what happens sometimes. Without giving any excuse to polls not starting early, there seems to be a bit of time, except if you have a lot of numbers per time. So let's take, for instance, this particular center, which is one of the biggest around here, with 13 polling units. At the moment, the officials are just waiting for that time where they start sorting and counting. I'm not going to say that polls not starting early is inconsequential, but a lot of people who didn't get to vote at the beginning of the voting by 8:30 are already now coming, except for the rain that also started, that may have also hindered them a bit from coming out, Bukola.
And just before we'll let you go, Dari, what are you observing about the positioning of the ballot box? Is it transparent? Is it in the open enough for everyone to see how the exercise is going, how voters are dropping their ballot?
Yeah, the ballots have been in the open. Of course, there are INEC guidelines to all of this, and I think to an extent there's been a level of compliance to that. Before polls start, the ad hoc officials will normally do the drills. They will tell people how the whole process will work, taking them through what the verification and the accreditation will be like. So I think the camera is focusing on one right there. On a particular box per time, you see all the information that you need. For instance, this particular location is actually Ward 2. You will see sometimes Unit 3, Unit 4, Unit 5. In that same box, you can see the votes that have already been cast by some of the voters who are also still waiting for the process to end so that they can see it. So they're putting it out. The only thing that may seem a bit obscure is the cubicle. It's not also obscure. It's actually out, but if you're casting your vote, you would have that privacy. You would go into that place, cast your vote before you drop it into that particular box. And then again, if I can quickly say this about inclusion and people living with disability, I had a chat with observers who also said they're quite impressed with some of the provisions that have been made so far. So by and largely, other than maybe the rain, the slow start, the process has been quite smooth and peaceful so far, Bukola.
Indeed, so many more areas to touch, Dari, but we'll allow you go now so that you can get more updates for us and fill us in later on the bulletin. Our correspondent, Dari Duwu, reporting live from Ipoba Oha, going Edo governorship election.